Mr. Walton, did you make contact with aliens? Were you taken to another planet, to a mothership? How did they communicate with... Can you tell me what they look like? Can you tell me how many of them there were? Were you given food?
But the teachers are alive. They're not books. They are the very living essences of nature itself.
What a strange person.
Unbelievably powerful supercomputer that's running our reality, and we don't have a clue as to how to operate it.
So when maybe you or somebody else creates an AGI system, and you get to ask her one question, what would that question be?
What's outside the simulation?
Say in your mind, say to yourself, I am more than my physical body, because I am more than physical matter. I can perceive that which is greater than the physical world.
This, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
Welcome to Lighting the Void.
Broadcasting from a shack on a hill in the Mossy Creek bottoms of Cane Creek, Arkansas. This is Lighting the Void. I hope you had a good weekend. It's Monday night, June the 8th. We're back for another round of shows this week. Lindsey Scharmyn from the Rogue Ways podcast is here with us. Very high synchronicity there, since we just had Phoenix Aurelius on, who was talking her up pretty good. And I'm pretty sure she called into the show once or twice to bail us out, maybe. We'll talk about that later, too. So, yeah, that's coming up here shortly. I want to thank the network sponsors at GetTheTea.com, also AncientLifeOil.com, and Metaphorical Archaeology. I just got this killer stuff from Get the Tea, this nice and advanced. It's got turmeric in it. It's got organic turmeric, organic cayenne pepper, and it's also got this stuff called like bioperine. And I got to tell you, I only took one. I don't know what I can say and what I can't say and all that stuff. So, I mean, just go check it out. It's good stuff. It's good. Like, it's good for like big boys like me. If you have a circulatory system problem, if you need to like get up and go, it's got cayenne pepper in it, man. And it's, look, I said nice. And so if you guys out there that tried to pass tests, this is not the thing to do it with, trust me. But this will help you in a lot of ways. They got some specials going on at GetTheTea.com too. And all of this is organic, even the capsules, everything about this is pure and organic. And I love Ronnie to death. And he's really trying to help people. It's vegan, non-GMO, no fillers, no preservatives. It's the good stuff, man. This ain't like Harry's Pills or something like that. You know, that's why they're leading. Anyways, also Metaphorical Archaeology, you know what to do, right? Like if you've had, especially now, if any of this stuff has caused you any paranormal trauma, give them a call at 214-995-3754. Beautiful stuff going on in the sky too, so make sure to check out Optics Planet at Lighting the Void. Click on the banner and go get you something there today, and head over to UFOseekers.com. Our partners in UFO investigations, they're doing big and wonderful things, and they should be, because they're the best. You go check them out at UFOseekers.com. Give them a follow at UFO Seekers. I want to give a cool shout out to the patrons. I uploaded the new tarot readings last night, but the thing is I had them all segmented out because I do it with my phone, and then I had it backwards. So I was saying like, for the patrons, I was saying like a Taurus, and then I would throw down these cards. It wasn't the Taurus reading, so I had to redo everything, and it turned out even better. So you're going to like that. Make sure you sign up. Go to lightingthevoid.com if you want to support this show. Donate. Sign up to the Patreon membership. We have different levels there where you get readings from me, but you also get, like, if you just go in the beginnings, though, like the $5 package, you're going to get access to some pretty cool stuff. Behind the Shack podcast, like featured stuff, posts, polls, behind the scenes stuff. We're going to be adding more things as it comes along here. So Lindsey is with us, Lindsey Scharmyn. She's the host of the Rogue Ways podcast, which is live every Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday at 7 p.m. Mountain Time. And you can find Rogue Ways on your favorite podcast app, YouTube, SoundCloud, Stitcher, or iTunes. And this podcast, Rogue Ways, is a podcast for analog, electric, concentric wisdom, which explores conspiracy, culture, consciousness, spirituality, magic, questions, exploration, freedom, and community, aiming to think critically and skeptically about literally everything, following the manifold path towards deeper wisdom and understanding of this crazy journey of life on this strange place called Earth. Rogueways.org. That would probably be the easiest link to get there. Thanks for coming on the broadcast. Good to have you.
Oh, it's so awesome to be here. Thank you for that excellent introduction with the very good description of Rogue Ways. Nice job.
Well, I wish I could take credit for all that, but I have to give that one to Pacho. My producer's awesome, man. He just is, right?
Agreed.
So I remember that night, like you know the Night Stalker, right? You know who that is.
Oh, yeah. Derek and I go way back. He's a good friend. I love Derek. Am I allowed to call him Derek? The Night Stalker and I are good friends.
And Derek, who's that? No, yeah. I think everybody.
And what's up, Derek?
Yeah, so like that night. I know
he's listening, so.
We were trying to, we were doing this Valentine's, like, spoof, kind of. And I was playing all these cheesy background, love songs and stuff. And it turned out pretty good. You kickstarted the whole thing, I think, actually.
It was fun. It was an awesome way to spend the night. And I always have love for Derek, and supporting Derek is awesome. Derek deserves like way more credit than he usually gets. I think he has awesome insight and research into so many very cool things. And I think if we could pay him, to just be a full-time researcher and produce content, like people would be pretty happy with that. But he's also an awesome Night Stalker, stalking all night long, like nobody's business, got the mad skills. So, I guess they need him too.
We got to come up with a jingle for him, because sometimes he'll just call in randomly and give us like 8 synchronicities at once really quick,
So awesome.
So like, we got to call in for that. Like, we got to come up with some type of jingle. Dude, you got to call in tonight. Like, everybody's already messaging me how much they love you, Night Stalker. That's cool. So
we need a musician out there to make the Night Stalker jingle.
Absolutely. That'd be cool. So so how long have you been doing this podcasting gig for?
Well, I was doing a sort of a different podcast that was a kind of a runoff of like what was it called? Talking about the Walking Dead. Talking Dead, I think. This was Derek's idea, actually, that we do a sort of Talking Dead version for the Higher Side Chats, which was one of our favorite podcasts. That's how we met, was in a Higher Side Chats like fan group. And so I started that with Derek, and we did that for a little while, and then eventually it was like, I kind of wanted to just do my own thing, because I had more to say than just the episodes of that show were sort of allowing. And so, I had been cogitating on it for a while, and I developed a sort of, goal and formula and logo and all of these things that I wanted to roll with. And then I just started. So that was about 2 years ago, almost. I think coming up this August will be 2 years that I've been doing Rogue Ways.
And you already got some books under your belt, I see.
Yes, I've been an author my whole life, and so I've been writing long before I was doing anything with podcasting. So I've got 3 books that I have self-published so far, and I have one more that I just finished. I actually wanted to get it done by tonight and be able to tell people that I had a new book for sale, but it's not quite done yet. It is a sequel to my first novel, and while it is written, it needs to be fine-tuned a little bit before I release it.
So you also do tarot readings, I see, too, right?
Yes. So I've been doing tarot readings since I was I want to say about 12 years old, and I'm 38 now. I'm at the ripe age of 38. So what is that, 26 years? 26 years of tarot reading.
Yeah. Well, I got a question for you, because I got one of these. I was recording my readings tonight, and I got one hell of a weird one, right? And it's just like past, present, future stuff. So I pull out, so like I do Pisces, and I'm like, okay, this is, because I'm doing like what they do on YouTube. If your energy, sun, moon, rising, Venus in Pisces, whatever, right? And I pull out, and it really wigs me out. So past was like 4 of Swords, right? And then present was, what was present? Present was Ace of Swords. And then the future was Wheel of Fortune reversed. I've never seen that before, ever. And I was like, that's weird. Is this like...
Never seen the Wheel of Fortune reversed? Or
no, just that in that order. Like, why would somebody like chill out for a little while, then like have ultimate clarity or ultimate like intelligence, whatever you want, however you want to read that, because I read kind of intuitively. I could read from the Tree of Life if I wanted to, but it would just make things way more complicated. I like the old fortune teller style stuff, you know? And
yeah,
I see this Wheel of Fortune come out for the future, and I'm like, well, how could he have ultimate clarity and then negative? Like, I don't get that. That was a stumper for me. It took me a minute.
I'll tell you my interpretation.
Right.
Just off the cuff and not knowing what you were kind of focusing on or whatever. But the Ace of Swords to me is really about, I mean, like you said, like a mental clarity, but more so like the kind of straight line through, like the almost like the quest for the Grail, you know, like this sacred task you have.
Yeah.
Like you have the clear sight to sort of like direct towards it. Nothing can stop you, and you cut through like all emotional turmoil and chaos around you to like achieve that, you know, landing at your goal, like a full-fledged, you know, landing there. And so you kind of arrive there. So that's either happening right now, that you have that clarity and movement towards it, or that you have arrived, you know, and that was kind of behind you in the past getting you here. And then the Wheel of Fortune reversed in the future, to me, would read that most likely, you know, the Wheel of Fortune either way is going to bring this massive chaotic change to the sort of major areas of your life, multiple major areas at once. And in the reverse, you still see that, except at least in my deck and the way that I read it, if it's right side up, you sort of have some control over that, as weird as that might sound. Like the chaos is coming, the massive change is coming, but you have at least some ways that your will can be exerted and sort of made to like make that wheel roll in ways that are almost like, you know, more suiting for what you would like. But in the reverse, that part is de-emphasized. So it's kind of like you possibly have like no power in what's coming, and you're just going to watch it roll over everything and see what happens.
But it was Virgo, not Pisces, by the way. And I was like interpreting it as like, okay, so you just want to like stay where you're at, you know, like this thing is going to happen anyways, but you're good with what you got. You're just good.
Exactly.
You know,
that's exactly how I'd interpret it. You just shit might go down, but you're gonna let it
just gonna do whatever. On. Like I'm good, right? I don't care that everything's about to shift. Like I don't, you know, that's like the esoteric stuff I've been getting into because I got into reading Gordon White stuff about the tarot, and like we really have adopted this type of thing where, I mean, there's so many tarot readers out there right now. But it's the people that like what you do and what others do, where they kind of individualize it and make it cool, you know? And I think the thing is like we've lost, like I kind of agree with Gordon on this. We kind of lost this fortune teller vibe, you know, like back in the Golden Dawn and the Rosicrucians, they made it fit to the Tree of Life and everything. But a long time ago, I mean, way back in the European and Gypsy and Cartesian days, they just took like the old Marseille deck and they would just get all fortune teller-ish about it, and it was wild, you know? Miss that kind of stuff.
I love the Michael Wan. I don't know if you've had him on the show. He's an awesome
like
dude
3
as
times.
well. He's this. Yeah. Oh, cool. Yeah, he's so cool. Synchro Mystic, and he kind of put it the way that works for me, which is that you know, you can read the signs and symbols in anything. Like if you want to go out right now and pick up like some sticks and some rocks and like some dried flowers or whatever, and then go in and like throw them down and interpret it, like you can do that. It's really about developing like the relationship that you have with those items and the placements and the way that you interpret it, because whatever you develop for yourself, that's going to be how your sort of higher power or your spiritual allies, or however you think about those things, your psyche, whatever it is, that's how your messages are going to come through to you, because that's what you develop. And it's almost like you put that sort of energy in and build up that morphogenetic field, if you want to go there. And so it's like the more you put into it, the more you're going to get out of it, and you can do it with anything. And so I think the people who get really good at this stuff are people who have developed that, over years with their personal thing, whatever that is. And that is, their way of doing fortune telling. And I, like myself, I've used one deck my whole life.
Really?
I've never ever done an actual tarot reading with anything other than this deck that I use. Technically when I was young, I did like one of these like medicine wheel things. It's not really tarot. It's kind of in the spirit of tarot. And then I did another one that was like an Osho Zen sort of tarot, which is also very un-tarot-like kind of tarot. So like technically I have, but I don't really look at those as very tarot-y tarot decks. And so, I kind of just go with, I've only used the one.
They're not very tarot-y tarot decks. That's the first time I've ever heard that one. That's good, right? So here's the thing, though. I'm curious because you got your blog's pretty well developed. You got books. You do tarot readings. How are you doing in this life right now? As far as, because people ask me this all the time. They think they look at it as if I'm in some place of success, right? And I gotta, I gotta tell you, I feel successful in my heart, but when it comes to the pocketbook, it doesn't really, I don't think it's corresponding in my world the way they're seeing it. And, and I'm just curious, I think that's about to change for the people that are really, really going to deep dive into this. But what are your thoughts on this as we transition through all this crazy energy?
Well, it's interesting. I'm like you. I feel like I'm successful in that I do what I love at this point in my life, and I don't do anything I don't love. And so I'm really, really lucky to be able to do that. But to be able to do that, I have downsized to the extent that I think most people would be very uncomfortable with.
Yeah, me too, right?
Yeah. And so I live very, very sparsely and very, humbly. And I do not make money off of Rogue Ways at all. I don't know what people think. I feel like people think that I do or something, and that I don't know why they would think that. I have a few subscribers on Subscribestar, and if anyone out there listening wants to go add $1 or $2 to the fund, it's at subscribestar.com/rogue-ways. And you can go to rogueways.org and support me in all kinds of ways. And I make a few bucks here or there. Some months I'll have months where I, do like 5 or 6 tarot readings. I don't do that many. There's not a lot of people who have, that kind of extra cash to buy something like that. It's not a required aspect of life. And so it's really a luxury item. And those people are kind of few and far between. So I have gotten to the point where, because I have a few people on Subscribestar, because I technically have enough people on YouTube to get, ads and stuff, I make a few bucks here and there, but it by no means supports me. I have a job. So.
Yeah. I really think that's about to change for some people, though. Like, I can see it. Like, really, there's this book Stephen Pressfield wrote about, I'm sure you've heard, it's like The War of Art, and he talks about that. He's like, you want to get serious about this stuff, you want to do it professionally, then you got to be professional at it. And I see the difference, but I see more people being called to create more than ever now, online, or do something for themselves now. Like, I get phone calls and messages and stuff from people like, I want to do this and I want to do that. And, some people are pretty honest about it, right? Like they just tell you what they want and what they dream, and others kind of weasel their way around and be like, oh, what I really wanted to show, or something. Yeah. And I'm like, well, why didn't you just say that? It's like,
yes.
So
just say it and just do it. Just do it. And I'm actually familiar with that book. I haven't read it, but my guy reads it. And so I hear about it a bit. And that's basically his message too, right? Like, you just need to do it. Like, stop finding excuses, stop finding reasons not to. Like, don't let yourself be dissuaded, and just do it.
Yeah. And it gets to where, like, I'm ready. When you talk about downsizing, I've been in this Radio Shack for like 3 or 4 years now, 4 maybe, and I'm done. Like, I'm done. I'm ready to do something with this thing. So, if I got to sell blood, whatever I got to do, I'm ready to get out of here. I'm ready.
Well,
to get out of here.
I totally feel it. I really like what Neil Kramer has to say about it, and I don't know how many people are familiar with him. He's also a super awesome guy. He did a really cool movie called Transmutation, I think. God, I hope I'm getting that right. But he suggests that you basically go about it as you're like diversifying yourself. It's like, what are all the various things that you can offer people, for money or value, or however you want to exchange that with people, and do all of them at once, so that because probably any one given thing that you're doing, like tarot readings alone is probably not going to support me. It would be cool if it did, probably not going to. So then I also, have books and I try to sell those, and that's probably not going to support me either. So then I also have merch and stuff that I sell, and that's probably not going to support me either. So I also teach classes on, psycho-spiritual protection and finding our spiritual allies and these types of things. And then that's probably not going to support me all the way. So I also do tutoring and freelance work as a educational specialist. And the more you can kind of spread yourself out in all these things, the more likely you are to get hits in various places in any given month. And then eventually you get to the point where some of those are rolling strong enough that you can kind of choose your own schedule, and you can kind of take weeks off here and there. And I'm kind of rolling towards that goal. Because I just really like that vision of life, that you're never just doing one thing. It doesn't get boring. It doesn't bog you down. You can always kind of choose this month I'm done with tarot readings. I'm going to take a break and do it again in the next month, or however it works out for you.
Yeah, that's really cool. I'm the same way, actually. I just love late night radio. I don't think I'll ever, or just live radio. You do your show live? Is it live?
Yeah. Yep.
Really?
I live stream to YouTube, DLive, and Facebook 3 times a week, as you said at the beginning of the show, Sundays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays at 7 p.m. Mountain.
Man, we need to hook you up into the Fringe then. Just throw another encoder in there. We love live shows here.
Just stream one more. That'd be awesome. I would do it in a heartbeat.
See, that's how it gets done, right? Dan's talking now. Be the enemy of resistance, Stephen Pressfield. Yeah, he talks about in this book, when you finally make up your mind that you want to do something in the world of art or expression, there's so much resistance that comes up against you. It's crazy at first, and so many questions and so many things well, how am I going to do this, or how am I going to have this, or maybe not today, or I'll just skip it then. And the more you just don't do it, the worse it gets. But if you get consistent, you'll start seeing results. Have you found that to be true?
Absolutely true. Yeah. And I think that's the hardest part for so many people is being consistent. And, it's especially with what we're doing. I mean, if you just went live any random time, you might get some people here and there. And some people honestly get a pretty decent following that way. But in general, people want to know, when can I sit down and listen and participate with you live? And so, you want to be consistent. And if you started not showing up randomly here and there, and it became a thing, then people would kind of be like, well, this is lame. I mean, I don't even know if he's going to be there when he's supposed to be there, and they'd drop off. And anything you're putting effort into consistently, and you keep putting effort into consistently, is going to find purchase in some way. It's going to pay off.
I totally believe that. I do. Israel Regardi said that too, so I believe it. He's like my hero. And I think what I want to talk about too, because we're coming up on a break, is your stuff on psycho-spirituality and protection, things like that. A lot of people ask me about that, Lindsay. They want to know about these things. How do I protect myself from psychic attacks and all of this stuff? Yeah. And when you say that word like psychic attack, you think, well, that's just, I don't know if I believe that. That could just be somebody's brain or whatever. But realistically, the more you look into this, with Jung, and you go through psychology, then you get down into the esoteric side of it. And then you start seeing it everywhere. You're like, okay, yeah, there's something going on out here for sure, where people are just getting massively messed with in their heads and stuff. So, yeah, it's a pretty cool topic.
And the way I look at that all is that it is kind of all three. It is a psychic sort of phenomenon. It is what am I trying to say? It is a mental illness sort of psychology issue in a way. It also is definitely at the exact same time, not to minimize it, a spiritual / demonic sort of thing. And it is at the same exact time an emotional illness or issue, or however you want to look at it. They're not separate things. They're all happening at once. And so to look at just one of them, if you need to look at it that way, and that's just how you understand it, there's nothing wrong with that. But I think you're missing part of the picture if you narrow to just one of those things.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that. We're going to go ahead and take our first break. We'll open the phones up, too, at the top of the next hour. But I want to say, too, like, with all of the transitions and stuff going on, if you're a fan of The Secret Teachings, which comes on after the show, Ryan's going to do a show tonight. And then for the rest of the week, he's going to do the best ofs. And I'm talking about some really good best ofs. So you want to pay attention to that because he's moving and he's going to do what I'm doing. He's going to move out into the woods. That's all I can say about that. Be right back.
This is country music singer and void walker Jason Benoit, and when I need my fix on the world of magic and the capabilities of the human consciousness, I listen to Joe Roop right here on Lighting the Void Radio.
This is Barbara Charlton from Metaphorical Archaeology. If you've ever had a traumatic paranormal experience, the effects of it may stay with you for years. Who do you talk to? You can't go to conventional help. What we do is we use emotional freedom techniques or tapping to actually neutralize the effects of that event. Maybe when you tell the story now, your heart races and your palms get sweaty. You don't even want to think about it because you don't know how to neutralize that. That's what EFT tapping does. It neutralizes those emotions. The circuit that was recorded on is gone. The energy flows freely and you're free of it. And that's what emotional freedom is all about. We offer this as a pro bono service, but this is something that I offer because no one, it seems, is helping people with these experiences. If you'd like to reach me, it's really easy. My cell phone is 214-995-3754. Please leave a message. I will get back to you as quickly as possible. Or you can email me, barb.eft@gmail.com. And EFT stands for Emotional Freedom Techniques. Reach out to me. It's confidential. This works. You won't believe the results.
All right, man. This is Crow 777, and you are listening to The Fringe FM.
Right, me old Chinas. I know it's an ad break, but before you lot shoot off and make yourself a cup of Rosie Lee or whatever else it is you're going to sling down your Gregory Peck, you need to listen to me babble. If, like me, you found your way to Lighting the Void via a downloadable podcast, you might want to take a butcher's at the Fringe FM Wind and Kite. You won't Adam and Eve how many other shows there are or what they rabbit on about. Ancient history, conspiracy, the consciousness, the esoteric, the occult, metaphysics, parapolitical, ufology, technology and spirituality, to name but a few. They got featured hosts like Ryan Gable, Jeremy Scott, Alex Exum, Tim Doyle, Cortana and Gigi, Susanna Ross, the Reverend John Polk, Michael Deacon and J.D. Lewis. You might find yourself listening to the thoughts and theories of the author of The Fish you just finished reading. Or you could pick up the dog and bone, call in and tell everyone your own beliefs or experiences. So do me a favour, before you put on the Ansel or crack open a bottle of vino or roll a joint, go to the Fringe FM and see what you're missing.
From a cave in the depths of your mind, it's Lighting the Void with Joe Roop.
The Fringe FM isn't just a radio station. We also provide services for all your audio production needs. If you are interested in live radio or pre-recorded podcasts, we're here to help. We even do audio enhancements and voiceovers if needed. If you want to do a podcast or live radio show and even want the option to syndicate on terrestrial radio, from simple audio file enhancement to live production and call screening, we have you covered. We have worked with some of the best professionals in the business in order to provide coaching instruction for content creation, show structure, and more. Contact The Fringe Digital Media for more at info@thefringe.fm. That's info@thefringe.fm. Or call 501-777-5631 for a consultation.
Hey, I'm J.M. DeBoard, and when I want to talk about dreams, I look up my man Joe Root and his show, Lighting the Void.
All right, welcome back to Lighting the Void. I'm your host, Joe Root. Don't forget the show's here for you 5 nights a week, live, 9 p.m. Pacific to 11 p.m. When we open the phone lines up, we don't have a call screener, so we are taking risks. Only thing we have for security here is an 8-second button. It's a big fat red button, so you never know what's going to happen on this show. We like to talk about anything and everything if you're just tuning in. Fringy. All right. Don't forget to support the network too, thefringe.fm. The new website is up. You can go to thefringe.fm. And if you love the station, go donate to the station right now because we got big stuff coming. All of your support can help us launch this new thing that we're going to do. And that's that, right? Go donate, go help out. And real quick, sign up to The Outsider. Brand new newsletter we got coming out. It's going to have really cool stuff in it. We're going to have a lot of people writing, some of the hosts, some people from other shows. Heck, maybe even Lindsey might write for it every now and then. But we're going to make a really cool newsletter for people, not just a spam box email thing, but something very useful. And, if you if you're cool, you'll sign up to it. Lindsey Scharmyn from the Rogue Ways podcast, rogueways.org. I got all that right, didn't I? You're here.
Yes, I'm here.
You're here, and you're on YouTube. What do you think about, before we get into the spiritual stuff, are you worried at all about what the censorship and YouTube, and because you guys talk about some pretty touchy stuff? You ever worried if they shut you down, any of your videos, anything like that?
It's really weird because I've been messed with for many years, long before I did podcasts or anything. I used to be a political activist, so I've had my phone tapped, and I expected a lot more messing with me or censorship than I've gotten. And I don't know why that is. I assume that it's because my show is still too small. I'm still under 2,000 subscribers. And so perhaps that's why. I kind of expect it someday, but I do not consent. I don't agree to it. I think it's wrong. And I do have, my DLive. I have a BitChute. I have a DTube. So I have some backups, but I like being on YouTube because, it's kind of like, there's like a mall and you want to like sell some bracelets or something. And instead of going to the mall to do it, you're going to stand on like some forgotten alleyway somewhere and hope people walk by. Like, that's why I feel like YouTube is the mall and we got to go there. That's where all the normies are hanging out. And if we want to wake some people up and get our ideas out there, like, we have to go where they are. And so I want to stay on YouTube because of that. I don't love YouTube. I hate Google. I think I wish I didn't have to be entangled with them at all, but I don't want to talk to a wall in the middle of nowhere. I want to talk to people. So
yeah, I'm
that's
with
kind of
you
where
on that.
I'm at with that.
I'll tell you how I've survived the YouTube thing is like, I just don't put ads on there. I don't involve my money with them and they leave me alone. The second,
good idea.
Yeah, I mean, like, the second you turn ads on, which everybody kind of has to, because they're trying to survive this artistic thing, I just don't, because I don't.
But
they don't even look at me.
Yeah, it's a really good idea. And to be honest, I get very little money from the ads anyway. I get way more from people who are, doing super chats and super stickers or whatever those are called, right. Things like that. So I should just turn the ads off and stay safer. That's a great idea.
Yeah, it is. It just worked for me so far. And I mean, I've talked about all kinds of stuff. Hopefully YouTube won't ding me for that. So
yeah,
how far does the magic rabbit hole go with you when it comes to spiritual and psychic protection? Are we talking Dion Fortune, Carl Jung type stuff, or do you think it goes even deeper than that?
A really good question. I'm not, so I'll throw it out that I'm not a student of any specific given magical tradition. However, I have magical understandings, and when I boil it down to my sort of eclectic soup that I've made, my magical basics come in as this. You have a mental conception of some kind. right, of what you want, what you're visualizing, what you hope to accomplish, whatever that is, you have an emotional, response, which is literally energy, that you're producing in your body, in your auric space, or however you think of that. You're pushing that out, then combining them and doing some sort of action. So it's a 3-part, very simple method, visualize or thought, emotion of some kind, and action to go along with it. And that's my basic way that I look at magic and perform magic. Like I said, I haven't studied any given traditions. I don't have, spell books or, things like that. Speaking with Phoenix Aurelius, I do think that he's absolutely right when he talks about, increasing the potency of those things when you then combine it with sort of auspicious timing, as far as astrology and things go. And I'm not a pro with astrology. I'm not really good with that stuff. So it's something that I definitely want to get better at so that I can pair, the things that I do with sort of really, really good universal timings.
Well, I believe in traditional astrology. I got this traditional astrology speaking, don't really look into Neptune, Uranus, and Pluto, even though I know they do affect energies, but I go back to the Renaissance thing where, all of the correspondences go to the 7 traditional planets, including the sun and the moon, everything they could see out to Saturn. So instead of Pluto corresponding to Scorpio actually corresponds to Mars, right along with Aries kind of thing, And you see all these magicians' tables they made out of this stuff, and this is how they made talismans and how they energize their alchemy. And somewhere along the line, we said, well, man, there's 3 more planets, and then they integrated it into modern astrology. I tell you what worries me with all this, and I really do want your opinion, is, and I'm pretty guilty of this myself, I've got caught up in the hype, but I used to study this stuff and understandings that we're here to transcend what our astrology is like. When we come into this earth, we've got this natal chart, we've got all these karmic patterns and stuff we got to work out if you believe in that kind of thing. But, I mean, I blame YouTube, man. If you get on YouTube, everybody is their astrology. Everybody is this tarot reading. Everybody is this now. And it's wait a minute. I thought this was all about just kind of feeling out the energies and seeing where we need to go or how we need to beat this stuff instead of just being it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, I'm totally with you. I also think it's really strange for people to be so deterministic about it or so sure about any given interpretation or, I'm one thing I know for sure is that pretty much nobody knows anything. So we're all doing the best we can to sort of patch together what works. And just like we were talking about sort of with the tarot, that I really strongly feel whatever it is that is speaking to you and working for you is the thing that you should sort of go with and let go of the rest, because there's a million interpretations on anything. There's a million ways to do magic. There's a million types of astrology and ways to interpret it and personalize it. And you really have to sort of follow your own intuition of what's going to be your way through all of that, or else it's going to be meaningless and you're going to get kind of swept up and rolled over in it anyway. And having said that, you also have to be pretty careful about not letting your sort of bullshit take over and tell you things that are lies because it's easier than the truth. But, that's its own story, I guess.
Lies are easier than the truth.
Absolutely.
They are, aren't they? So much easier.
And that's the way you kind of know, right? If it's going pretty easily, you're like, okay, wait, what am I not seeing here? It should be a little harder than this, probably. Yeah, usually that's so true, man. Because the hard things in life is where you kind of learn your lessons, and you pick your battles, you fight things that's worth for it, and other things you let go. But we don't ever get tested. We never get we never know who we are if everything is like WALL-E, where we're just sitting in front of this screen and watching movies. Everything's comfortable, and that's it. And I'll add to that too that it's just when we're talking about this, we're not necessarily saying therefore everything should be bad or you're doing it wrong. It's like, I did like a cross-continental tour in my van last year after I quit teaching and just, changed my whole life up. And that was really, really hard, and so I knew it was the best thing for me to do. It's incredibly hard to just get in a van as a lone female and just drive around the continent for a while. It's scary. There's lots of hardship and frustration. And
wow, you did that for real?
What's that?
You did that for real by yourself?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It was rad. It was super cool, but it was super hard. It was super challenging and scary and emotional and all these things. But it was also incredibly fun and incredibly rewarding. So just because it was hard didn't mean it was bad. So I just want to make that distinction that you shouldn't be trying to like torture yourself. You should just kind of ask yourself, like, am I being challenged right now? Am I facing any sort of difficulty or growing at all? Because if not, maybe I'm kind of headed the wrong way.
Well, and see, that's where the part of astrology, I believe, because my son, he's a Taurus sun, Taurus moon, Leo rising, right? So he's got this like challenge all the time to speak out and step out. But he keeps running into these things where, he's kind of materialistic. He likes comfort and he likes comfort, which is kind of messed up if you think about it for a Taurus, because you grow in discomfort most of the time. Doesn't matter what sign you are. And yet you've been given the sign where you got to have comfort, right? So he gets challenged a lot with stuff like this. And it's like, you can see him just jumping up and down. Like, I want this, I want that. And I'm like, well, you're being tested, right? And then he's starting to understand that now as a teenager. Like, okay, well, I can tough this out. I can make it through it, which makes me proud because, like when he gets older, if hard times come upon him, he's not going to, I don't know, like break down or something. I think that's important,
Absolutely. Yeah, that's how you build yourself up. And like you said, that's how you get growth. That's how you reach new places. It's how you kind of like shed the parts of you that you realize like, oh, that wasn't actually a part of me. That was just some crap I was holding on to, and I'm going to let it go now. You become more yourself as you go, and only good things come from these things.
That's so true. So tell me, what was the freakiest thing happened on this trip? Like the scariest moment of the trip? Can you tell me?
Let me think. I'm not sure if this was the scariest move.
At least three.
I'm not sure if this was the scariest moment, but it was definitely pretty unsettling. At least I had just driven through all of Canada, up through the Alaska-Canada highway, and I was headed over to oh gosh, shoot, I can't remember the Skagway. Okay, it was in Skagway, Alaska, where I was going to catch the ferry and go back down to Washington, which is where I'm from. And I live in Colorado right now, but I was sort of doing the loop from Washington and back to Washington. And so I was going to go to Skagway, catch the ferry, but there was a ferry strike all of a sudden. It was the first ferry strike, I think, ever in history, right when I was supposed to be catching the ferry back home. So I couldn't catch the ferry back home, but I was already in Skagway, and now I'm like, okay, if I drive back, I'm like an extra week on my trip, and I was about to be 2 days from home, and I'm just like tired at this point. I've been everywhere. I've been all through scary parts. Ooh, I just thought of a scarier one. But anyway, the scary parts of the trip, and I just wanted to go home. So I'm like, okay, and I have no plans of where I'm supposed to stay, and all these other people are also trying to stay somewhere because they also can't catch their ferries out. So everything's filling up, everything's full. Thank God I meet this random, extremely helpful woman. She tells me of this free campsite, which is always good, that I can drive to up the road. It's a gorgeous drive out there, but it's also like really far from everything.
Oh,
and
no.
I'm alone, obviously, and no one's out there at the campsite. So now I'm camping in like a totally empty, scary middle of Alaska, in the middle of nowhere, far from town, free campsite, by myself. And so that's scary in itself. But I went to plug in my phone charger, and my phone was very low, but I charged it overnight every night, so I wasn't worried about it. And I went to plug it in, and for whatever reason, I'm plagued by these things that no one can explain, but for some reason my charger just literally exploded in my hand in the middle of the night, in the dark, in a place where no one was. And so that freaked me out. Then my phone died. Now I'm in the middle of nowhere with a dead phone, and my charger doesn't work, and I can't charge it. And yeah, that was pretty freaky, but I made it through that night. And I woke up and drove back to town. I barely slept. It was pretty scary. Funny enough, for some reason, I decided the next morning, once the sun came up, everything seemed better, you know? So I'm like, oh, this place is amazing and gorgeous. And I went on this little hike and I found an ancient old like pioneer graveyard. And I was like, well, this is like the perfect end to this scary night as I'm standing in the graveyard in the morning now.
That's one of those nights where, like, I've been there before. You too, like, yeah, this is kind of cool, but it's kind of not.
Like it's a cool story, but in the moment you're like, I just want this to end now.
I wish it would be so much cooler if like somebody I really trusted and was here with me. You know, like this sucks. Yeah, well,
I have the scarier moment came to me. This is way scarier, and I should have remembered it first. If you want to hear that one,
yeah, please.
So I was again on the Alaska-Canada highway. It's, if anybody's ever driven it, you can drive for literally hours without seeing another human, or a settlement or a driveway or a gas station or anything. You're just hours of driving in the middle of nowhere, and there's just endless trees on all sides of you. And I still had reception for a minute, but I was heading towards a time where I was going to be out of reception for 3 days. And I'm texting with my aunt for a second. I know you're not supposed to text and drive. Don't do it, kids. It's bad. But I was. And my aunt texted me and she said, did you hear about those murders that happened at the place you're going to stay tonight? And then I lost reception. And then a giant thunderstorm came and the torrential rain nearly washed me off the road. And then I got to the place I was staying that night and it was full. And so I had nowhere to stay. And there was murders that had just happened the night before, where some girl and her boyfriend in a van, just like I was, had been killed by some rogue fugitives.
Fantastic. That's fantastic.
That was scary.
You need to invest in a personal sidearm or something, anything, a flamethrower.
I had one, and you cannot take it into Canada. So thanks, Canada.
Yeah, they stopped that they're like, you got weed, that's cool. Put the gun down. You know.
Yes.
Don't bring that in here. Yeah, but no, that is pretty freaky. I think
it's pretty scary.
Yeah, I mean, I used to go on these like trips by myself too. I thought I had something to prove, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, because I don't know, it was like after my divorce or whatever. I was like, I want to feel okay with myself, you know. And I would take myself out to the movies. I'd get on planes. Sometimes I'd drive to places just for no reason, and just think. It never really did a damn thing, to be honest with you. It's like, okay, I'm out here. This is cool, and there's nobody to talk to. You know, like this kind of sucks, but it's cool. But I had that moment. You ever seen that movie, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas? I'm sure you've seen it, right?
Dude, I haven't. I'm sorry. I know exactly what you're talking about. But
I'm going out. I'm out in Nevada, Pahrump, around where Art Bell lived, and I'm going down. I think it's called like Death Valley or something. And it's just kind of the same, but it's desert. There's nobody out there. And you just keep driving and driving and driving. And the land is flat. So it's really pretty at night because you see stars from like horizon to horizon. So I got kind of, what do you call it? Dazed or hypnotized by it. And I just kept.
Yeah, 'cause it's just endless.
Yeah, because it's kind of pretty. And I just kept going, and I realized, I looked down and I was like, wait, I don't have any cell service, and there's no gas station, and I'm about to run out of gas. And I started having that anxiety build up like he did in that movie. Like, what the hell am I doing out in the middle of the desert, right? Like, why did I drive out here? And then you have like this anxious feeling like you want to go back, but you can't get back fast enough. So it's really, yeah, it's like I think sometimes we put ourselves through these tests too, because we want to see what we're made of, you know?
Absolutely. Well, I definitely, it was that I wanted to see, you know, I wanted to do it. I'd always dreamed about doing these road trips, you know, and you kind of, sometimes I'm like waiting for someone else to do it with, but then finally I'm like, why am I waiting for anybody? Like, just go do it. If that's what I want to do, like, I'll just go do it. But also it was like you know, like I said, I had quit teaching and that was my career for, 14 years. And so, and I had sold my house and I was just kind of changing my whole life. So it was kind of like a shedding of like my old, it was like a marking of, the difference between what I was leaving behind and what I was going towards, sort of. And so it kind of had that symbolic representation in my life, like a journey to leave it all behind and find something new.
Yeah. Well, that's one way to do it. You just quit your job, sell your house, gone.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
Well,
everyone's like, she's crazy. I'm like, dude, this is the best part of my life. I'm definitely not crazy.
Isn't that what they've trained us, like the nuclear family thing?
Absolutely.
If anybody reads, I know it's probably an old book, but it's by Tim Ferriss called The 4-Hour Workweek. Have you ever read that book?
No, I feel like I've heard of it though.
God, it's awesome. Because Tim Ferriss, he's a multimillionaire, honestly, but he got there by understanding that we don't have to own things to experience things. We just don't.
Oh, yes. This guy. No, I haven't read it, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, and so he
He's the guy who
learned.
just kind of like sold everything and left it all behind. And
Yeah, but he learned efficiency too, right? He learned how to, like, he had a 9-to-5 job, but then he would he started hiring these personal assistants from India to like read his emails, and I mean he came up with like an efficient plan to transition from his job to doing what he wanted to do. But he started as like, well, I want to travel and I want to parasail and I want to do this stuff. So instead of like going to Paris, France, he would find like another town that is almost like Paris, but would 10 times as cheaper, that would treat him like royalty, have the same exact experience on off seasons and stuff, and just found all these different shortcuts of making money as well as like living the life of his dreams while never really having to worry about possessing property or living the nuclear family lifestyle, you know?
that's so awesome. Yeah, I think we get trained into this. And when you think about it, if you're working 40, 60, 80 hours a week and you might be making really good money, but what are you doing? What is your life about? Like, how is this money even helping you at this point if you have no time to enjoy your life, you know? And I don't know about other people, but especially teaching, I just found that you have this pressure to, even when you're not at work, you know, then now you need to go to the kids' games and now you need to go to meetings and parent-teacher stuff, and like your whole every waking moment should be dedicated to the school and the kids or whatever your job is, to your job. And if you're not, it's like you're not committed enough, or you're not doing it right, or there's something wrong with you. And it's like, is there really something wrong with me just wanting to have my own life, just my own time for just me and whatever I'm interested in outside of work? Like, is work really people's whole lives? Some people it is. And I honestly feel pretty sad for them, because even if it's something you're passionate about, just being so narrow, you know, like that's so limiting.
I'm telling you. Everybody's like, well, at least you're doing what you love, Joe. And I'm like, yeah, well, I'd like to get out of this shack.
Yes. Yeah. I'd like to have some experiences of life outside of this thing. And that goes back to what, you know, we were talking about that Neil Kramer talked about. If you have all of these various things you're doing and they're all supporting you in some way, then, you know, I think it's not only maybe more fulfilling, but at the very least, a lot less sort of just narrow and limited and boring. I get bored.
We gotta see if we all like came together, we could get one of these like RVs and put an antenna on it or something, and just no 5G, maybe 4G. We don't want to kill people, you know, but like put an antenna on it and then just broadcast podcasts and live radio while we just bounce around the country. That would be cool.
Oh, it'd be so awesome.
That'd be cool. And just
so
keep
much fun with that.
keep the van rolling. That's what we'd call it. Keep the van rolling, throw in $5, and then, you know, you can follow us around. Be like one of those gumball things that they do. Isn't that what they call it? Those gumball races or whatever? I'll probably never quit doing that.
But I like the idea that we would stop at like parks, national parks or something, and people could come meet us there and like camp with us and stuff. It'd be awesome.
Why not? Right? Because you talk about, you're talking about living for your kids and stuff. And I did that. I did. And now he's 16, going on 17. And the dude, like, I can barely get a hug from him, you know? And he's like, I want this. I love him. He's my boy, right? He's my world. But at the same time, like, he's having fun living his life. And he only comes to me when he wants something now. And like, he walk in the door. I'm like, hey, how's your day, son? He's like, can I have like $20 or can I go to the lake? I'm like, sure, son, you know, and I'll go back and do my thing, but he gets it. But yeah, I see all of these. I guess what I'm trying to say is I see all these programs that they've programmed into us where they make us feel like we can't have lives, even especially if you got kids. Do you know how cool? I mean, if my dad would have did these things with me, I would have loved it, but he didn't. He went to a job that he hated and was miserable every single day when he came home, and it screwed me up, and I had to heal from that and figure out I was screwed up to fix it. you know?
Yeah, that's the other thing. I feel like people stay in these jobs that they hate because they have all these reasons. They all are dependent on this future time when things are going to finally be okay. And I'm like, I don't know. I've seen enough people die, and I feel like I've had enough, past life experiences that I know we die, and I just don't. You don't know when that's coming, and why would you hope, that at some future time things are finally going to be okay? Why don't you make them okay right now?
Yeah, I got this retirement thing coming, right? Like it's there, and I'm gonna do this when I'm 60, right?
Yeah,
maybe.
Right.
If I'm lucky,
If I make it to then, if the money's still intact, because who knows what happens to it between now and then, all these ifs. And, my mom's friend was really cool. She said, to me, she's like, you're doing it right because you're doing it, but you're doing these traveling and, going around doing what you love before you get to that age. Because when you get to that age, a lot of time, most of us, the way we're living in this modern world, our bodies are beat up and we can no longer really enjoy it as much.
Yeah. And then you don't need much, right? You don't need a big fancy. You just need like a TV and maybe a swimming pool and a bed or something at that point.
Yeah.
That's it.
When I was in the van, I had my bed and some camping gear and some clothes and some food, and that was it.
Man, I can't believe that. That's crazy. So, I mean, it is crazy, but it's cool too. You quit your job, you quit teaching, you sold everything you had. Did you have a mortgage you were paying on, or renting a house, or what?
I had a mortgage. I basically accidentally flipped 3 houses and made a bunch of money off
You
of
accidentally,
them.
right.
I accidentally did. I'm really I was like, I'm going to live here now. I'm going to buy this house, and it's kind of a crappy house. I'm going to build it up over time. I'm a very motivated person. I'm going to paint and do all this stuff. And I'd live there for a year, and I'd paint and do all this stuff. And I'd be like, oh, I need to move, because it's also tends to be my life. I'm 38 and I've moved 39 times in my life. So I move on average once a year. So then I'd sell it, and it's like, oh, it turns out it went up in value significantly. So then I'd put that into my next house, and then I'd do the exact same thing. And I need to move, and I'd sell it. And it turns out I made this money, and I put it into the next house. And I just did that 3 times, and that worked out really well for me without me meaning for it too. So I sold the house, luckily at a profit, and I got rid of my car. I luckily sold it for exactly what I owed on it, or I think I had to pay $1,000 or something. So it cost me $1,000 to get out of my car payments. And it was the perfect year to quit teaching, because this year things kind of went to hell, and all the teachers I know have really hated what has happened with switching to basically online teaching and still being expected to teach and grade and do all the things you do, but virtually. And so I think I made the right choice.
You're probably a lot of people's heroes. There's people contacting me like, you're my hero, Lindsay. Have they contacted you and said
No.
that?
In fact, all the people I worked with were very disdainful about it. And one of them even said to me, what, you're going to live in a van like a homeless person? And I was like, is that what you think about people who travel around in RVs and vans, that they're homeless?
I can't stop at a hotel if I want, or
yeah, I didn't suddenly lose all my money and become destitute. I'm just traveling in a van. I don't know. They're very strange, but I think part of it is it challenges them, in what they're doing, and they don't want to be challenged. They don't want to think, could I quit teaching, or could I move on from this, or could I live my life a different way? And me living a different way kind of forces them to think about it. And I think they resent that more than respect it. And so I got a lot of resentment more than praise or respect.
I think we need to go to break here, but I think the reason why we're under this, one of the biggest reasons why we're under this mass control and this mass thing and all this other stuff, is because we hold on to that nuclear idea. I really think if people would see what they're capable of, I know it's scary, but like you said, you went through that scary thing on those roads and all that stuff, camping by yourself, those things. When people start realizing, hey, I can take care of myself, I don't need all of this other stuff. Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Absolutely. For sure. Well, look, we'll open up the phones too when we come back. That's 1-800-588-0335. We're at the top of the hour. Where's Lindsey Scharmyn from the Rogue Ways podcast. Stay with us.
Alex X.
Hi, I'm Alex Exum, and you're listening to The Fringe FM.
Are you intrigued by paranormal talk radio? You'll love the new paranormal radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now. The Paranormal Radio app. Free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Hey, this is No Way Jose, a Northern California Piscean stuck in the Arizona desert. I'm a void walker, and I got the shoes to prove it. So what do I do when my soul yearns to delve deep into the realm of the unknown? I aim my satellite straight into the night sky and catch a smooth ride on the KTLK-DB radio waves. I tune into Lighting the Void with Joe Root on the Fringe FM.
Joe, Lighting the Void is the best show on the planet. This is Barney, your friend from Facebook. Thank you and all the crew for all you do. Namaste, my friend.
This is Macon from the foothills of North Carolina, and I am a void walker.
G'day, void walkers. This is Lily from down under Australia. The world may be small, the enigma is greater. So let your curiosity take you for a journey with Joe Root.
Hey, this is V, coming in from Central Maryland, and I am a void walker.
This is Kevin Doherty, a beginner void walker. I'm from Vancouver, BC. I know a little about a lot, and as Leonard Skinner said, I guess the rest. I learned a lot from Mr. Root in the show, and I heard it from the beginning. I knew right then he was going to be a new Art Bell. Thanks for all your shows, and keep it up.
Hey, this is Derek from Mass, a.k.a. the Night Stalker, and I'm a void walker.
This is Mark from Chicago, and I walk the void to ascertain what is consciousness.
My name is Jared Johnson, and I'm from Humboldt County, California. I do not know all the answers to the questions about reality. I do not claim to know the ultimate truth about life. I seek that which has been made hidden as a part of a family of explorers of consciousness. I'm a void walker. Thanks, Joe Root.
I'm Clyde Lewis. You're listening to The Fringe FM.
Hey, is that a new music app?
Yeah, check it out. Surfer Music Discovery. It links to thousands of online stations, but the twist is you see the song names and artists that are now playing live.
That's different. No guessing. Looks like a waterfall of music.
So many formats. Rock, oldies, country, R&B, jazz, and a whole lot more.
How's that spelled?
Surfer. S-U-R-F-R.
Is it expensive?
It's free. No need to sign up or sign in.
Get the Surfer Music app free from Google Play or the App Store.
Introducing Shadow Light Tarot from Waking Canvas, the Fringe FM's new contributing artist, Eric Tesey. This hand-illustrated black and white self-published deck serves as a reinvention of the tarot, never before witnessed. Each of the several suits of this 88-card deck lineup form an infinite panoramic scene. Even the included visual companion guidebook is entirely hand-illustrated, cover to cover with beautiful visuals and esoteric symbols and artwork. The newly released deck comes in a custom magnetic box with its own travel pouch. The Shadow Light Tarot Premium Deck and its travel-sized mini deck Wonderlight Tarot are both available now from WakingCanvas.com. If you use the code word FRINGE, that's F-R-I-N-G-E at checkout, you'll receive an extra 10% off your entire order. To discover more, including a free reading and time lapses of all the illustrated artwork, make your way over to WakingCanvas.com today. That's WakingCanvas.com.
Hey, Fringe listeners, this is Dave Cruz, host of Beyond the Strange Radio, asking you to join us live Sunday evenings at 7 p.m. Pacific Time, 10 p.m. Eastern, right here on the Fringe FM. Visit BeyondTheStrange.com for links to chat, social media, and schedules of the show. And remember, always stay strange. Hasta.
Somewhere between abnormal and paranormal, there's a show called Into the Paranormal. I'm Jeremy Scott. Hear me live Saturdays at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 Eastern on the Fringe FM.
Message is being broadcast by the Department of Defense of the Republic. At 2 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, multiple unidentified objects were confirmed to have entered Earth's atmosphere.
Discovery Houston, 20 seconds to LOS key drift. Contact, Magnus will be in orbit.
The first message that comes to you is you are a divine being. You matter. You count. You come from realms of unimaginable power and light, and you will return to those realms.
The vast stretches of the unknown and the unanswered and the unfinished still far outstrip our collective comprehension. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Broadcasting from Forest Tower Studios, all the way from the Deep South. Now, here is your host, Joe Root.
All right, welcome back to Lighting the Void. We are in our second hour with our guest tonight, Lindsey Scharmyn from the Rogue Ways podcast. Phone lines are open at 1-800-588-0335. If you have got a story where you took a journey out on your own, regardless of what society is, you can share it with our guest tonight, and we can compare notes. But that's what we were talking about before the break. Like all these damn programs that we've been, I guess, I want to say infested with. That keeps us from having ultimate fulfillment, ultimate happiness. The worst one, the one that I think is the hardest for everybody to get over, and I'm curious on your thoughts on this, Lindsey, is it's too good to be true. What the hell kind of divine beings are we when something good happens in our life and we say that? I can't wrap my head around it still to this day.
It's almost like that, Matrix sort of quip where he's like, we tried to give you like the good life and we tried to make it sort of peaceful and whatever, and you wouldn't accept it. And I'm like, I feel like that was a very good metaphor for us.
When he's talking to the architect, yeah.
Yeah, we're kind of expecting, the worst and the hardest, and I think it's trained into us. I think we're like made to feel that way, and it does suck. I mean, why not the best? How about it's too good not to be true?
Yeah, that's right. And you know what makes me like afraid to come out of the shack and like get out in the world? It's not the beauty of life or the cool stuff in the world. It's the chaos of everybody's fear that I can't stand. There's this stuff, like just get it away from me,
Yeah. Like everybody take a deep breath and chill out. I did this episode not too long ago called You're Not Dead Yet. Or maybe it's I'm Not Dead Yet. One of those two. And that's basically what it was about, is like we let our fear take over, and these people who are controlling, the construct, whatever this is, the controllers, that makes us easy tools for them. We basically, like, the way I described it is we basically like honed this sword over the years or maybe even centuries of our past lives of this fear that we have, and then we just handed it to them, and then they're cutting our heads off with it, because if you're afraid, you're very easily controlled. You're very predictable. And that's they've got you right where they want you, so if you can come to terms with, what's the worst thing that could ever happen is that you die, but you're going to die for sure. And so you're already dead basically. So what are you afraid of?
Exactly. Like you sound like that kid on What About Bob? Like there's nothing you can do about it. You're going to die. I'm going to die.
Yeah. But it's not this like nihilistic, horrible thing. It's like this beautiful thing. So you're like, okay, well, if I know that, I'm pretty fucking free.
That's all right. That was when I first started having like panic attacks. I remember in my early 20s, because I started like feeling my organs, when you realize you're not invincible,
Yeah.
And you're like, I got all this crap inside me that has to work right in order for me to be alive. And if something doesn't work right, I'm going to die. And I'm freaking out about it. Like, what's this on my arm? Why am I breathing funny? Why does my heartbeat feel weird? What's this like poke I feel, And everybody's like, dude, chill out. Next thing you know, you're like, I can't breathe. But you're breathing too much, and you're telling yourself you're dying, and you're not even dying. And then you can't get rid of it. Then people think you're crazy. And then you're like, well, I'm going to have another panic attack. Then you have another panic attack because you're worried about having a panic attack. Yeah. And for the first time in your life, you see what fear can actually do to somebody. It can kill you.
You did it all to yourself through your mind. So that's like a testament to how powerful you are, right? You did that to yourself with your mind. I did it too. I also have panic attacks, totally. Probably most people listening have. But now think about what could you do with your mind if you switched that around the other way?
Exactly.
And you were like, I am fantastic. My organs work perfectly. All of these sensations I'm having are amazing. My life is going to go, infinitely well all the time.
Yeah, I remember riding in the truck with my Uncle Ted coming back from a job once, right? And I was having panic attacks left and right. I was in good shape, though. I think the anxiety burned the fat off of me or something. I don't know. But I was like, hey, my heart is going too fast, And my uncle's, is not the best thing to do, but he's kind of redneck. So he was drinking a beer, driving this truck, And he just looks at me and he's like, that's good. And I said, how's that good? My heart's moving faster than normal. He goes, you should be happy. Like, I'm alive, man. My heart works, And I was like, that's true. It is working. At least it's working,
Right. That's better than a lot of people's.
So if you look at all the riots and stuff that are happening, and you look at all of the, we're just talking about mentalism here, which is like a hermetic law. Polarity, mentalism, the ripple effect, vibration. Like these people, the smart people that are running this, whatever the hell this thing is we call a country now, they know this stuff. They know what's going to happen. Okay, this dude's going to like kill this guy, and he's white and he's black, and everybody's going to freak out, and then they're going to start hurting each other. What can we do to make the chaos more so we can get the military state in, kind of thing, And then and then it just tailspins until we need them more. And this is how they really trap us, right? Everybody's so crazy. Everybody's so crazy from everything. Someone comes along and is like, here's some relief. Here's some peace, but you're only going to get it from me.
Question it.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't question it, right? You're only going to get it from me. That's how people get on drugs. Seriously. I've been on drugs. That's what happens.
And that's like the fear piece, but it's we can go beyond just the fear, and it's just the, any kind of like unexamined or unprocessed emotional baggage we have is also being used in all of these false flag, machinations of the powers that be to push us into various different outcomes. None of them would work if we had, full sort of responsibility over our emotional and mental being, which would also equal physical control. And I'm not talking control like a control freak. I'm talking like you are sort of aware of and like, directing all of your own energies. And how many people do you know that are like that? Very few, right?
I try to be. But sometimes it's hard.
I'm no saint. I freak out sometimes, but if everybody was, they couldn't pull any of this. They wouldn't even matter. We wouldn't even have to talk about, what they're doing or why they're doing it, because none of it would work.
Yeah. Right. And I get what you're saying. I was yelling at my son the other day, and he's like, why are you yelling? I said, I had thought about it for a minute. I wanted to say, because you're doing stupid stuff. The kid was riding on a car hood, being pulled by a four-wheeler, almost killed himself doing that. That's where teenagers do crazy stuff, and they videotape it, they put it on YouTube, and I'm thinking, this is crazy. What are you doing? Right? And I see how sensitive he is, because I guess he's just a sensitive kind of person. Somebody's like, well, you hate me now. You think I'm stupid. I'm like, no, I know my emotions. I'm angry because I'm afraid. Because I have no control over what you do when you're not around, which means you could do stupid stuff like that you're not thinking correctly, and you can get hurt, and I can't do anything about it, and it scares me, so therefore I'm angry. And he was like, oh, well, you love me? And I'm like, yeah, I love you,
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's it.
That's so sweet. Well, that level of honesty, and if we could all do that too, how much better would every single conversation go? It's like, why are you yelling? And you're like, well, the honest truth is this. And it's like, oh, well, I can relate to that because I'm also a human being. So, It's like, that would be so much better. We could all do that. But I mean, most people, I think, don't even know why they're doing what they're doing or what they're feeling or how it's affecting their actions. And they wouldn't necessarily be able to have that conversation.
Yeah. And it keeps, like, this isn't something that I just learned, I've always known. This is something I learned, like, recently, because I think when you just genuinely care about people, you get tired of hurting them, like, you get tired of affecting them in negative ways. And this is, people are like, I want you to talk about magic and aliens. This is magic. It's hermetics. There's laws to all this stuff. A vibration, I totally believe in that. I mean, we've all walked into a room and just felt the tension before. I'm sure you have. And you're like, Absolutely. Yeah, got to get out of here. And you don't even know what's going on. You just feel it.
The first time that was really proven to me, I never really thought too deeply about it, I think, but I walked into a room in the house that I was visiting, and there was a new person I had never met before sitting on the couch, and I looked at him and I looked at everyone else and I turned around and walked out. Unfortunately, that person happened to be one of the very few Black people who had ever been on the small island that I grew up on. And so everyone was like, you're racist. Why did you just leave? Like, why you just looked at him and then left? And I was like, no, dude, that guy is freaky. Like, there's something
something ain't right about him.
I don't want to be around him at all. And I was very young, and they were pressuring me like, he's so cool, just go hang out, just meet him. And I'm like, no, I don't want to be around that person. I don't know who he is, and I don't care. You can think I'm racist, whatever. Within a year, he had murdered that same house, that friend, his mother, his sister, and he had done all this after horribly abusing a very young girl in the family, and then killed himself. Yeah. So I'm like, well, trust your instincts. Like, I didn't want to hang out with him for a reason. It had nothing to do with his skin color, everything to do with his aura color.
Yeah, see, that's totally your intuition, which I think they try to distract us from. That's our psychic nature. We all have that. I think they just distract us from it.
Totally. Well, if you look at a child up until they're about 6 or 7, but especially if you look at babies, and if you've interacted with babies much, or if you have the opportunity to, you can go test this. And if you watch a baby will look at someone right above their head, which is the strongest aura area. If you see auras, you can tell the concentration of coloring is right above their forehead, sort of. And babies always look there first, and then they'll look at the face. And it's universal. It's all cultures. It's babies do it. And so I think that is evidence that they're reading auras, because they're more important than faces. You want to know something's energy before you care what it looks like. And so about the age of 6 or 7, we stop doing these things. We stop seeing sort of imaginary friends and, having interesting experiences. And a lot of people think it's because of our brain waves, change at that time. And I do think there's something to it, but I think there's also this idea that we sort of get trained out of it. If you go tell your mom, like, oh, this person's glowing and they're bad, or whatever, your parents are like, okay, weirdo, like, that's not real. And you start to learn, like, whatever this is I'm experiencing isn't valued. So I guess I'll stop experiencing it, or stop, talking about it at least. And I think we kind of train ourselves out of it through that social pressure.
I had a person tell me that one time. It was hard for me to believe. Like, I walked into the room and they like covered their eyes, and they're like, dude, the light behind you is blinding me. And I'm turning around and I'm like, what are you talking about? I don't see nothing, And they're like, it's too bright. And I think sometimes, like, I believe in auras because I kind of see them. I know what people are talking about. You got to kind of focus to see it. At least I do a little bit, but, this idea, like, oh, there's this big, massive light that's blinding me. I was like, come on, man, really?
Oh, yeah. Well, I've never seen a blinding aura, so I
just walked out of a portal and I'm like an angel. Like, come on, Yeah.
Well, I could imagine that maybe at that moment you had some sort of angelic or, other sort of spiritual entity around you, and it was glowing, or... Because it'd be pretty rare to have that bright of an aura all the time, especially.
Well, I don't want to bust this person out, but let me tell you what they tried to do. Okay. So they told me that, and I'm curious of what you would do. They told me that they were going to channel Anubis from the deep, right? And I'm like, okay, I'm curious. because like I have a curious nature. I'll see what's this about. And so I leave, I come back in the house, and there's this statue of Anubis, and they're sitting in a chair trying to look all dark and scary, and I'm like, okay, I see what's going on here, right?
A little bit of stagecraft.
Yeah, a little bit of, not too much witchcraft, more like stagecraft, right?
Yeah.
And so I like sit there, and I'm like, okay, so what does Anubis have to tell me? And it was something about, like, it was so general. It was like, you're refusing to go down your path or whatever. And I'm like, okay, well, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to go back outside and come back in and try this again, right? Because I'm not vibing this. And it was kind of weird. Honestly, it was kind of dark, and I think the stagecraft got to me a little bit. So I go back out and I come back in, and then they just like reek their head, and they're like, there's a blinding light behind you. Can you go back outside? And it looked like they were in pain or something. And I was like, I'm not feeling any of this. Maybe I just missed out on it. I don't know.
I don't know, man. I'm very skeptical of most channeling things. I'm a skeptic of everything, really, honestly. And if I'm talking about something, it's because I've had so much direct experience with it that I've finally come to the conclusion where I'm like, yeah, that seems pretty real. And channeling is one of those things where I'm like, what I do have experience with is random entities trying to interfere in general with humans. And so I just wonder if so many people might be so excited to possibly have contact with sort of other dimensional or other worldly entities that they don't do too much questioning, where the source is or what this is actually happening. And if this thing tells you it's Anubis and you really want to impress your friends and sort of have this ego boost of like, look what I can do. Who are you? Are you really going to question it too much? Like, what is this thing really? Because in my experience, a lot of these entities, they know what you want and they know what you're thinking and they know how to get you to do things. And I don't know. I just don't trust it. I feel
they
like
manipulate
how do you know?
For sure. Yeah.
How do you know this is Anubis? How do you know this isn't just some random entity? And how do I know you're even doing anything besides, purely bullshitting
right.
Also?
And if Anubis is real, I'm sure he's down there. He's like, seriously, how many people say that they talk to me on a daily basis? It's hilarious. Yeah.
Come on, guys.
Like, I might be in contact with 2 or 3 and they don't talk to me that much, but the rest of them think they're talking to me. I don't know. Yeah. I get those vibes. And see, that's what throws off all of the real cool things that happen in our life. Like, people don't believe in the out-of-body experience. I still talk to him to this day. Like, what are you saying? You peeled yourself out of body and you watch yourself sleep? That's crazy. Because we have people out there that are doing things like this, so they don't believe in any of it.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate when the actual very strange things that happen in life are overshadowed by these people who are kind of making pretend and play believing and whatever. And yeah, I feel like so many people have had out of body experiences though, and it always kind of weirds me out. But it's
100% real. It's 100% real. Yeah,
totally. I've also experienced it, and I know, and but it's the same level of disbelief I have as when people tell me that they don't dream. I'm like, what? You don't dream? Like,
you just don't remember.
And they're like, yeah, that's what I think too. They just don't remember, but they're both shocking to me. I'm like, you've never had this experience. That's okay.
Hey, I'm going to bust out Markham. He came to the shack one night and slept on a cot out here. He told me the same thing. I don't really dream. I'm like, yeah, well, I stayed up for like an hour and a half listening to you talk to yourself. So you're dreaming about something that didn't make sense, You just don't remember it. That's all. And we're kind of like unconscious, and that's what I hate about all of this. Like, if I have to stay in the shack and like travel around in dream world and the astral realm for the rest of my life, then you know what? That's my destiny. I don't want it to be, but maybe it is. And at least people will be able to wake up a little bit, That's all. Just wake up. See who we really are.
So you astral travel frequently or out of body or whatever you call it?
I used to. And I think it's like when I started talking about it, then I don't know, like when I really started heavily talking about it, it's kind of like when it kind of stopped. But since we did the astral journal, and I got a friend or two that are really into it, and they're like, they help with it. Like, Amandala helps with it, like, because she's done a ton of studies with it, and a couple other people in the chat. I've had some more experiences, but I haven't had one like I have not had one like I did that one day. The one thing that really showed me, oh crap, like this whole thing is different. It's real. You know, what they were talking about. It changed my life, my paradigm, you know.
Awesome. I was going to ask too, because I noticed in the, intro music or whatever, there's a line, at least one sample of that is from the Hemisync series. And so I was going to ask if you've done Hemisync, and if so, if that affected your ability to leave your body or not. Well,
in all honesty, I was doing banishing and grounding rituals and Hemisync at the same time.
Wow.
So I think it was both. We talk about this in the Astral Journal on Patreon. I think it was both. I'm really starting to understand, like, hey, when I started tapping into my subconscious and using that in ritual, and, you know, I still do that to this day, but maybe I should integrate both again and see what happens. But I rarely lay down and put the Hemisync stuff back on. I usually just fall out from work. But
yeah,
I couldn't get out of my yard. That's the only thing. Like I could fly and everything. I just couldn't get out of the yard. That's the only thing that sucked.
It's almost like you had a ward like around your yard or something.
Oh, there's definitely hanks around here.
But I sometimes wonder too, because I'm like, you know, are our sort of spiritual allies or higher self or something, are they sort of maybe putting up certain obstacles or barriers maybe to help us grow past those, or maybe even to sort of protect us from something that we're not necessarily understanding at that moment? Or, you know, like, I just wonder if there's sometimes reasons, like maybe there's a good reason why you couldn't leave your yard. Maybe you should be glad you couldn't leave your yard that night. Or whatever.
No, I want to leave my yard bad. So bad. Yeah. That's probably why I couldn't, you know.
Good point. I want to, and therefore I haven't already.
That's right. Exactly. I want too much, and I just need to let things want me to happen. I don't know. Like, yeah, I give that is true, because it comes from a subconscious place of lack. That's where it comes from.
Yeah.
And it just blocks you.
What a hard lesson.
It's so, yeah.
Just like total release of that somehow is very difficult.
Yeah, it sucks. So you had an out of body experience, you said, right?
Yeah, I have had some, a lot when I was younger, and not so many anymore. Even despite my work with Hemisync, I kind of can like lift out a little bit now from time to time. But I'm kind of like you. It's like the work and the day and stuff can get so like overwhelming that a lot of times I throw Hemisync on and I just pass out. So I don't even stay awake for it. So, but yeah, when I was younger, I did have some, and they were very interesting. One of the first out of body experiences I had, I obviously didn't know it was an out of body experience. I'd never even heard of such a thing. And I kind of like floated out of my body, and I looked around and I looked down at my body on the bed, and I was like, well, that's weird. This is a weird dream that's quite vivid, you know, like This is interesting. And I looked at what should have been my body. And instead of my body, I saw glowing colored balls. And I was like, well, that's weird. And then I was like, how do I move? And I started to try to move my physical body, and that sent me like spinning in this crazy
out of control spin. Yeah.
Out of control. Yeah. And I just kind of sucked back into my body. And a bit later, I don't know, months or so, a couple months later or something, I was in this random house, and on the wall, they had a picture of the chakras. And I looked at it and I said, wow, what is that? I had a dream of that once. And he was like, oh, these are the chakras. And I was like, that's in our body. And he's like, exactly. I was like, I saw mine. Like, I left my body and looked down and saw that. And he was like, well, that's weird. Like, so my experience was confirmed to me because I had no idea what chakras were, but I saw them as me when I was out of body.
Whoa, that's a trip. That's totally a trip.
Like before I even knew what that was. So I was like, well, that was real then,
Yeah. Well, look, we got to take our last break here. I want to talk a little bit more about this too, because you mentioned something I've never talked about on the show, but that out of control spin, that happened to me too when I was young. We'll be right back with Lindsey Scharmyn from the Rogue Ways podcast. Last break, shortest break of the night, 1-800-588-0335. That's the call-in number. Be right back.
In your face, all over the place. We're online 24/7. 24/7. You're listening to the hottest internet station.
Listen, I want to tell you about G.I. Joy from GetTheTea.com. It's the best alchemical concoction of goodies for your stomach and digestive system I can recommend, and that's all based on my experience. Packed with colostrum, acidophilus, aloe, peppermint, and turmeric. If you do your own research, then you know this is the bee's knees for the stomach and digestion. Now, due to Big Brother's ears and the eye in the sky, you know I can't go into the details about what it helped me with. All I can say is I got relief. It's non-GMO, no fillers, no preservatives, manufactured right here in the US of A, and delivered to you by the only people who stay on top of the game and are out in front. Go grab a bottle of G.I. Joy at GetTheTea.com and see what all the fuss is about. Again, that's GetTheTea.com.
Hi, this is Aaron Hunter, host of Real Paranormal Activity, the podcast where we tell real paranormal experiences of people from around the world. And we also conduct interviews with authors, investigators, psychics, and mediums. Real people, real stories, real fear. Thursdays at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern on the Fringe FM. See you then.
My name is Jake. I'm from Billings, Montana, and I am a void walker.
Hey, Joe Root. Thanks for lighting the void. This is Janine in the bluegrass of Kentucky, and I am a void walker.
What's up, guys? This is Damien from San Marcos, Texas, and I'm a void walker. I listen to the show to keep myself aligned with the world.
Hi, this is Laura, aka Laura Lavender. I'm from Las Vegas, and I listen to Lighting the Void because it helps me understand some of the strangest experiences I've had. So thanks for all that you do and for always being there for us, Joe.
Ever seen an extraterrestrial? It can be hard to believe they exist unless you've seen one for yourself. What if I told you I've seen them my whole life, but have never had a witness who shared the encounter with me? Now, what if I told you I saw 4 of them, 2 with blue skin, and there are over 20 witnesses to this CE5 event? My new book, The Blue Beings, Visitation at the UFO Conference, documents actual accounts from real witnesses, many of which have gone on record to attest to this otherworldly reality. Be a part of the quantum paradigm shift that is taking place right now. Go to johnpolkmedia.com to get your copy of The Blue Beings, Visitation at the UFO Conference, on sale right now at johnpolkmedia.com. That's JOHNPOLK media.com.
Welcome back to Lighting the Void. Our guest tonight, Lindsey Scharmyn from the Rogue Ways podcast. Pretty cool person, right? Like, quit her job, sold her house, made a little bit of money, got in a van, traveled across the globe, became a rogue, and now has a podcast called Rogue Ways. It comes on 3 nights a week, is that right? 3 nights a week.
That's right.
3 nights a week. And it's live, too. And we love live programming here. So, and it looks like the Night Stalker is called in. What's up, brother? Yeah, I swear to God, he was just on the phone.
He was just here, yeah.
What happened to him?
Derek,
Jesus.
come back.
Like, he's got this shoddy connection thing going on, I think. You got to get out of the grocery store. Are you there, brother?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. What's going on?
Oh, man. You guys, awesome show. I'm sorry about that. The callers kept out.
All right, so your connection is not cool, man. What happened? What's going on? Turn your Wi-Fi off and maybe see if that helps. You hear him like he's getting frustrated at it.
It works for me.
Yeah, like all these damn phones, they got Wi-Fi and they're trying to switch back and forth all the time. It's a pain in the ass because they have this HD calling. But anyways, I'm sure he'll figure it out and call back. But so you were talking about earlier, the out of body experience, and you were talking about like this out of control spinning type feeling. I can't tell you how many times that happened to me when I was a kid. It happened to me so many times where you feel like, I don't know if you're having like a lucid dream or whatever. Everything gets kind of crazy, and then you feel like you're on the, literally feel like you're on the end of a slingshot, like someone's spinning you around and around and around, that kind of thing.
Yes. Yeah. And it like got tighter. It would get like tighter and really, really fast, and then it would get like looser and sort of everywhere. But I feel like it had something to do with not understanding how to move in that space, because I think after that, I sort of figured out you move basically just by your intention, right? Like you just focus on somewhere and you just move towards it, and you just do it. And I didn't understand that. I was trying to like physically move, and I think putting that like motion into it somehow like messes you up, because that's not how movement works there. So it's some sort of like disconnect in between, your ways of moving yourself.
See, I have no idea if that's true or not, because when I had the out-of-body experience that I had, that one, I felt like, I don't remember if I opened the door or walked through the door, but I really did feel like I was walking around. And then I remember flying to the tree and like just looking at the limb going, okay, I was reading this book called Dream Yoga, where they would tell you to go outside and try to fly, Yeah. And maybe that had something to do with it. Maybe that triggered it too. I don't know. But when I looked at the limb, I was like, okay, I'm going to fly. And then I looked at it and I went straight, like with ultimate velocity, right? Like I was on a zip line. And I was like, whoa, okay. So this is that. I mean, it was so cool, man. I can't explain how freaking cool it was. But now that you talk about that, I do remember being slung around like a rag doll, a lot when I was a kid.
Yeah. It's pretty interesting too, because I mean, I don't really know what other people experience when they're out of body. I don't. Basically, what I'm saying is, the various different times I have perceived myself to be out of my body have not all been completely uniform in my experience of them, and so I have this interpretation of my own experiences in which there's sort of different like levels to our astral body, if we want to call it that, or our unconscious mind as it travels, or whatever, however you want to think about those things. And I think there's sort of various like levels or realms we can access, and that each one sort of has its own way of being and like experiences you can have and places you can go, because that's my experience at least. And one of them is just this exact same world as sort of like a carbon copy, as I'm sure you experienced. And it's exactly the same, and the same things are happening as they happen in real life here. Like my dog walks up to the door in real life. My dog is also walking up to the door in that space. I'm just not in my body while it's happening, Yeah.
And don't you see, that's why I want to master it, because I want to like go to a friend's house and be like, hey, I'm here.
Yeah. Well, people supposedly do that. I've never gone that far. Like I said, I haven't done it since for a very long time. So it's been a while.
It takes practice. It takes dedication, and it takes practice. And then it takes the ability to relax. It takes the ability to concentrate. You have to develop a skill in your mind to do it. And I think it's one of those deals where, God, I hope that that's not the only time that I ever accomplish that. I hope it's really not. But it could have a lot to do with, it could have something to do with how we treat our bodies too, that's got to be a factor, I would think.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I think that if you're in a state of disease, or even when you're talking about, being sort of like worn out and you lay down and just pass out, I think that's not necessarily a great state to be in either. And so sort of, body, mind, soul, if you're sort of like at peace and well, I think it's probably got to be easier, just like everything else is, in that state.
Yep. I believe that too. I hope have you figured this out? Night Stalker, are you there?
I'm so sorry. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. It's a little choppy, but go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So I'm literally living in a magnetic anomaly. You go to the USGS survey. There's a magnetic anomaly map, and my condo complex is on that.
Okay, so hold on.
Worse service at home than I do at the store.
Okay. He's explaining why his connection's messed up, and he's something about a magnetic anomaly, and that's all I've heard. Something about the store.
Derek, every time you swear, we can hear that part perfectly.
He's like, son of a bitch. Shit.
Derek, you are the magnetic anomaly. Face it.
I don't know why I'm laughing. That's terrible. I'm sorry, Night Stalker. But you definitely are in a magnetic anomaly or something. Is going on. It's probably all the damn 5G towers they keep putting up around us. You know?
For real.
It could be. It could be. I don't know. So, out of all of your journeys and travels that you've done, everything that you've done, I got to know, like, what's the craziest, most paranormal experience you've ever had? Because you seem like a pretty healthy skeptic about things.
Yes. I'm a magnet for crazy paranormal oddities. And so, God, the craziest one, I guess I'll tell you this story. Should I go with that one? I'm like trying to choose now. It's really hard to rank them because they're all very strange in their own way. I'll just go with this one. It's pretty weird. I was on a ferry. I live on an island, as I said, when I was growing up. And I think I was about 16 or 17 when this happened. I'm not sure. And we were driving back. We were on the very last ferry of the night. So it was probably about 1 a.m. or something, maybe 2 a.m., 3 a.m. I'm not sure. We were on the ferry, very few people on the ferry at that time of night, where, you know, if you've ever been on a ferry boat on the car deck, the windows are just open, you know, through the metal, you know, out the boat onto the water. There's no glass or plexiglass or anything there. And we had the window to the car down, and I was on that side of the car that was right next to the basically outdoor window. And I was looking up at the night sky, and there was a star that was quite bright, and I noticed it, and I thought, that's a mighty bright star in the sky there. And right when I thought that thought, while looking at it, it disappeared, just blinked out of existence. And I was like, weird. And then I realized right next to me, all of a sudden, were 3 glowing lights right out the ferry window and out my car window. If I would have reached my hand out, I feel like I would have had my fingertips maybe like a foot away from them. Like they were very close. And they appeared right when that very bright light disappeared. And I am looking at them wondering, like, did a boat just ride up next to the ferry, which is very unlikely. The ferry's moving at this point. We're actively traveling through the water. And boats tend not to come near the ferry. The ferry boat is very large. All boaters know you stay away from the ferry boat. And so it wasn't likely, but it was the only thing I could think of because it didn't make sense. And then they started like kind of pulsing. And I asked the 4 other people in the car, I'm like, are you guys seeing this? And I realized they're all just staring at it, sort of transfixed. And they're like, uh-huh.
Like the Twilight Zone, person, huh?
Yeah. Yeah. And one of them's like, it's got to be the Coast Guard. And that was the only thing anyone said for the next few minutes, because then they started moving these 3 lights, and they were synchronized perfectly. I mean, beyond anything I've ever seen since or before. They were perfectly synchronized with each other. This is 1997 or 8 or so. So it's way before we heard of drones or anything like that. So I had no frame of reference for how these things could be doing this at all. They start moving in perfect synchronization, and they start making slow at first, simple shapes, like maybe like triangle or circle or something. And then as things progressed, they started getting much faster, and they started making much more progressive shapes of more complexity. And they started changing colors, and they're still doing this all perfectly synced with one another. And no one can say anything, because what would you even say? We're just like transfixed. We have no idea what's going on. And honestly, I don't even know how long that happened. Like, it could have been minutes. It could have been 15 seconds. Like, I have no idea. I just know that it was very weird. And then they just stopped moving, and they stood there for a second, and then they sped off together. And they always maintained equidistance from each other. They sped off towards the front of the ferry. And as they sped towards the front of the ferry boat noticeably stopped. And not stopped instantly. It's a boat. It can't just break, but it slowed down and came to a stop eventually. And they turned on the spotlight, which in all my years of living on that island, traveling on the ferry multiple times, a week or frequently, I've never had the ferry just sort of stop except for a whale. And at night, you don't really notice whales and stop. And so and that's, spotlight turned on. So I knew that we weren't just tripping. Like the ferry boat had also seen whatever this was.
Where does this ferry travel again? Like what river?
It's not a river. It's the Puget Sound up in Washington State.
Okay.
I grew up on Whidbey Island, which sounds fancy, but I was not rich. It's just a really big island in the Puget Sound. But there's only 2 ways off it. You can get off by bridge or by ferry. And so we rode the ferry a lot. It was, a normal part of our life. In fact, most people who grew up there have dreams about the ferry, like still to this day. So it's like a part of our psyche. But yeah, it was very strange. So, the ferry saw it. Everybody in the car saw it. Nobody understood what it was. We got out of the car to kind of go look and see if it was still around. And then we kind of like realized we didn't really want to see whatever it was again, and that things felt very strange all of a sudden. And we just got back in the car and, I asked everyone, I was like, what the hell was that? Like, I don't even get what just happened. And everybody was like shell shocked. Nobody wanted to talk about it. The same person who had said like, that's probably the Coast Guard was like, I think it was the Coast Guard. And I'm like, I don't think that was the Coast Guard.
It was the Coast Guard, right.
Yeah, like I'm pretty sure, but nobody wanted to talk about it. And they were just kind of like shushing me and ignoring me. And so I was like, okay, I mean, I guess it's like too much to deal with right now. But since that day, not a single one of them would admit or talk about what had happened. They just looked at me like I was crazy and like walked away every time I brought it up, except one of them finally one day broke and kind of like turned to me, and was like, stop asking me about it. I remember it and I don't want to talk about it.
Really?
I was like, wow. Yeah. It broke them. Like they couldn't handle it.
Like they're angry about it. Wow.
Yeah. And they just blocked it out, I think. And then it makes me wonder, like, how many people have experienced something very strange and then completely blocked it out because they couldn't handle it, Because
that's what makes people feel like outsiders, though. Really. Well, you go around trying to ask questions that either you've experienced or other people should be asking questions, and they're like, I don't know, I don't really want to talk about it, kind of,
Yeah.
Like, what? You don't want to know what that was?
Yeah, I'm like, you're not curious? Like, you don't want to talk about it? Like, okay, it gets weirder, though. This is somehow the less believable part, maybe. But maybe like 2 or 3 years later, I moved to a new place, still in that same region, but just across the water, basically, to the city area. And I lived in this apartment. I had never explored this area much. I looked in the phone book because we didn't really have internet much then. And I found the local library, and I had just learned about this thing called bibliomancy, right? Where you pick up a book and you flip to a random part, and that's sort of your oracle for the day or whatever. And I was like, I want to try that, but like in a library. I want to pick a whole book, and I want the book to be my thing. And I'm going to read whatever book it is. So I'm going to find this library I've never gone to. I'm going to walk there. It was like a mile from my house. I'm going to walk in the door. I'm going to just walk to a section, purposely not looking at, sections or which part of the library I'm going to, what type of book it is. I'm just going to pick a book. I'm going to read that book. So I walk there, I walk in, I get to a section, I grab a book, I walk to the checkout, and it's something like, and I really wish I could remember, but I don't, but it's something like, Trails of the Strange and Paranormal, like, and I'm like, oh, this is like my shit I'm into, like, that's cool, what a lucky, pick. And I go home, I'm reading it, and one of the stories in it is of a person who went and got on a boat at night, and they looked up in the sky and they saw a bright light, and they said, that's a bright light. And it disappeared and turned into 3 lights next to them. And they moved in synchronous ways, and they changed colors, and they made shapes, and they sped away.
You gotta be, come on.
I fucking swear to God. I swear to God, I like dropped the book and was like, I don't even want to live this life anymore, because what the hell is that? What just happened, and what does it mean?
Like, I don't know what that's about. But those people that you talk to, they're probably going around like, man, one night I saw these 3 lights and I tried to tell everybody about it and they didn't want to hear me, and you're really the only one that was like that. They just ran into somebody that thought it was a cool conversation. Now they're going to say something about it,
True.
That's what happens to me all the time too. Like, I got family members that'll be like, yeah, man, I know you're into that weird devil worshiping stuff, so I want to tell you the story, and I'm like, oh, okay, thanks. Appreciate it. All right, let's hear it. So I was on your website, rogueways.org, which leads to your author name, which I don't want to say that wrong. What is that? How do you pronounce that?
It's Corey Scharmyn.
Corey Scharmyn. Pretty simple, right? I figured that's what it was. And you got this article on there called, which I ain't going to say, but it's like F Christianity.
Yes.
And I'm reading it and I'm thinking, okay, this is an article about F Christianity, but I'm reading it and I'm like, wait, is it? Or
no.
is it? It's not, it's about how we've polarized ourselves against Christianity and religion so much that we're in this place where everybody has to make sure that they're different and they don't believe anything anybody else does. So nobody believes nothing.
Absolutely.
Is that what that was about?
Understanding. Yeah. I actually lost friends over this article because they were so upset that they thought I was trying to say that only Christians are oppressed or something. And I'm like, no, by no means. I'm saying right now in our modern society, it seems very popular to hate on Christianity. And I wonder why it's the one religion that isn't sort of defended. Like right now, I feel like if you go out, and you put a statue of Baphomet up, like people are going to come to your defense and say, yeah, this person's right to worship this, and how dare you criticize it. But if you make a TV show about a transgender Jesus, everyone just laughs and celebrates and says, oh, that's clever and good.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I thought about it when I was reading it. I was like, this is clever because you got my attention now that I'm reading it. And that's a good way to get your point across to those people that feel that way. Make a big title that says F Christianity so you can get their attention so they'll read it. It's pretty clever, actually.
Thank you.
Well, look, I'm glad that you got to come on the broadcast. It was really cool to meet you. Hopefully we'll hear from you again, maybe even broadcast your show, stuff like that. And what do you got planned on the future, like your next show, your next guest? Tell us what's up.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. And it's been awesome to be here, and it's super cool to meet you and get to know you. And I've had a lot of fun. So I'm glad. And I hope your listeners have enjoyed it. And rogueways.org is where you can catch up with me and find all of my content. But tomorrow I'm actually doing a show that I really resent doing, honestly. But it is a show that I'm going to talk about the police, and I'm going to talk about why, police people are people too, and hating the police is really easy. It's just like the F Christianity article, it's really easy to hate on Christianity. It's a lot harder to remember not to fall subject to groupthink and become a bigot where you group pick a group and hate everyone in it. It's not very intelligent, and why we have to sort of get over our rebellious nature and just say F the police, and instead remember most of them are pretty decent people who don't see the world. They haven't yet seen through all the same stuff we've seen through, and it's not their fault. And they're not out to kill everybody and hurt everybody. Most of them think that they're helping, and we have to, I think, get to the point where we see that and remember that they're humans too. So that's tomorrow night's show, is where I'm going to be talking about cops and basically defending them. And I hate that. I hate it. I've had a lot of really negative experiences with cops. I know that there's a lot of bad ones, and I know that there's a lot of power tripping and corruption, but but
it's a good point though, right? Like these people that I hate the police. Well, okay, never call the cops again, ever.
Yeah.
For anything.
Right.
Like you hate them, but you won't do their job. So, and then make sure that you never call them again if you hate them so much, no matter what happens to you. Never.
Exactly.
Missing child doesn't matter. Don't call them.
And people make a good point. They're like, well, we should defend ourselves. And I totally agree. But how many people do you know are ready to, And then beyond that, I've lived in a place where the police went away due to lack of funding, and the criminals knew it, and crime went up, and it affected me and everyone I knew directly. And people don't want to live in that world. And I don't think they know that.
Yeah. So you take one bad apple. That's what happens too. But this is what causes everything. You take one or two bad apples, and realistically, these people are murderers. There's no doubt about it.
Absolutely.
They're pieces of garbage, if you ask me. But
and we have to absolutely deal with that.
Yeah, but it makes all of us look bad. Kind of like how Aleister Crowley did to all the magicians. Not that I hate Aleister Crowley or anything, but because of what he did, nobody can practice magic without somebody thinking about Aleister Crowley. It's pretty stupid.
Kind of like all those charlatans make, channeling or various things look bad because they're just pretending.
Exactly. You're exactly right. And yeah, it was cool to have you on the show. And we'll leave. What about, do you want to give out your social media links too, since you came on and hung out with us? That's only fair.
I would love to. Yeah, if people want to go to YouTube, obviously, so search Rogue Ways. Make sure not to search Rouge Ways. Rogue is ROGUE. And if you go to subscribestar.com/rogue-ways, I would really appreciate any support that people want to throw my way. And your audience seems pretty awesome, so I'm really glad I got to come hang out.
We're really glad you got to hang out with us, and all of the links will be in the archives for the podcasters. Stay tuned for the Secret Teachings with Ryan Gable. And remember, tonight is his last news show for a few days. He's not going anywhere. He's moving. He's moving out of the city and into the country full of peaches. So he has to move his studio. But tonight's broadcast will be new. And I want to thank everybody at the Fringe FM, all of you guys in the Fringe FM chat, the patrons. Please don't copy the show without written permission. Music was by Chronox and Stevie. We'll see you guys tomorrow night, same time, same channel. Good night.